From the end of World War II until the late 90s, the United States operated under a foreign policy of both containment and deterrence. Both rested on a significant buildup of the might of the American military, which then it could use to contain ideologies and threats, as well as deter future attacks from enemies to the United States. During this period of time, we saw the creation of a large-scale nuclear weapons program and the building of military bases and deployment of troops worldwide. This era saw almost every foreign policy tool used, from defense to diplomacy to trade, including embargoes and economic sanctions, as well as foreign aid propping up economies to prevent the spread of communism. The problem with this, however, was it became incredibly costly. Yet we continued this policy until another significant event changed foreign policy for the modern age. That was 9/11. 9/11 showed the inadequacies of our current defense policies. We faced off against enemies that didn't wear uniforms, fight for a country, or even fight conventionally. Military buildup and deterrence and containment would not work against this enemy, and as such, new defense policies were needed. As such, 9/11 forced an abrupt shift in our defense policy. Under this time of intense stress and emotional turmoil, the United States had to act quickly compared to over the long period it used to have during the Cold War era. It had to quickly move from using defense and deterrence to adopting intense and prevention strategies. Further, even use of diplomacy and aid tools had to change. It was no longer about just fielding the largest military might. Now the United States had to both advance and adopt new technologies and new ways of engaging in foreign policy to defend itself. After 9/11, the War on Terror began, and several key policy tools were created. The first was meant to deal with security domestically. A new cabinet-level department, the Department of Homeland Security, was established to deal with anti-terrorism and intelligence gathering. What this department did was bring together numerous singular pieces of our intelligence and defense apparatus and brought them under one large umbrella organization. The definition of domestic security was broadened to include things like dealing with natural disasters, be it hurricanes, flooding, tornadoes, etc. And with that came protection of our infrastructure and power grid. Further, it included border protection, dealing with ports of entry, and giving it wide latitude over regulation of international trade, and giving it greater security for dealing with things like transportation. Airlines, ports, even public transit fell under this. To assist large portions of our intelligence apparatus that were not included under Homeland Security, we also passed the USA Patriot Act in 2001. This law broadly expanded the enforcement and surveillance efforts of the federal government. The Patriot Act gave sweeping search and surveillance to domestic law enforcement and foreign intelligence agencies, but in doing so, eliminated checks and balances that previously gave courts the opportunity to ensure that those powers were not abused. Under the goal of domestic protection and national security, the government was given the ability to monitor communications, effectively eavesdrop on U.S. citizens without warrants.